kick off this lovely, lovely season here and start watching these. Are you sure? Do you have it to like what your because I know like my desktop doesn't have speakers. I don't know obviously what yours is. So like my desktop audio, just I have to set it to what my headphones are for it to produce the sound. It's working now. Hello.
Hi. Are we finally heard? All right, good. Do I need to reintroduce my intro?
Probably.
Darn, that was one of the best I've ever done. Either way, I'm glad you guys can finally hear us, whether it be day, night, or the afternoon. I will still be your play-by-play host, repeating this for the second time with the amazing yet virtual Megalast. How are you doing today?
Doing just fine. Finally, actually, here for the second time. And yeah, we're gonna get some good games today, and it's gonna be fun and a good way to start.
I definitely agree. While we waiting for these the players to get their technical issues a little bit fixed up, it seems Tenacity's having a couple kind of inner issues when it comes to player IRL issues, things. However, we are still here to cast Mortal Wombats versus Tenacity, and I am so excited. Both of these teams debatably the top three when it comes to the intermediate polls, and that's just because both of these teams come from very, I guess, strong kind of organizations. Mortal Wombats obviously coming from the Marsupial organization, which we all know about, very popular. Wisdom Academy, once last season, is now a novice. And then Tenacity is ran by a tier 2 coach, Mr. Drowsy, who is a part of Malice. So either way, both of these teams are looking very strong.
Yes, indeed, and it's always nice to have these kind of matchups like on the first day because this is sort of establishing not only kind of who's the better team, but it's the storyline for the seasons, right? Because one of these teams is going to have to become the underdog to the other. One's going to have to be the Goliath that towers above all, and obviously you want to be the Goliath, right? You obviously want to start out with a win as soon as you can, and I think both these teams are going to be pulling out all the stops, maybe going to some metas we've seen, maybe pulling out some unique heroes. We don't really know because it's a brand new start, so who knows?
Oh, very exactly. It's going to be very intense. And especially because both of these, we often kind of talk about how some teams struggle because they don't have a consistent coaching staff. But that's not really an issue here. Both of these teams, at least of the information that I've been able to bring up, they have very good coaching staffs. And first map is going to be Nepal. I think that's a map that really kind of you can benefit from with a lot of coaching, especially because it's very favored on dive type compositions.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, even if you're not on the dive, say you're trying to do some Orisa strategies, or maybe even just some regular rush, it's all about those rotations. And only a good coach is going to be able to kind of teach you exactly where, when, how, and why to rotate, as well as making sure it's executed properly. And if it's not, finding out a game plan around that. Nepal, also a map where you could see some teams bring out something like a Faray, you have to be able to be prepared for that. And it's just going to come down to, has these coaches been able to ingrain in their players enough what they want to do to execute their strategies?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Think about it, I like Nepal that it's not Lijiang Tower, so we don't always get to see what people or really understand what people are running at times. The big thing about Nepal is Obviously, we have that type of well map where it's very much like Ilios, you just get to be able to boot people. Then you have Village, which is very much Brawl, and then Shrine, which can be a bit of everything.
I mean, yeah, and you can kind of benefit depending on which comps you want to lean into, you know? So, say you're more of a rush centric team and you don't want to be versatile, but you perfect that rush, right? You can still force it on those maps where maybe it's not the best, you know, even not on Village or going forward into something even like Sanctum. Where there's the hole everywhere, so you don't really want to be running the rush. As long as you can keep up that aggression, that momentum, I mean, you can pretty much run as you please and do as you like.
I definitely see what you mean. Now on the screen, brought to you by broadcast.gg, we have amazing new graphics, very much professional. You know, I may not wear bringing a tie, but I'm glad Megalas is, so we're gonna be looking a lot better today.
Yes, indeed. It's easy to wear a tie when you're not, you know, physically wearing one to slightly break the fourth wall for you. But hey, you know, it's so nice to actually have these lovely, lovely graphics from broadcast.gg because it ups the whole level and it makes everything behind the scenes just a little bit easier.
Yep, I definitely see what you mean. Right now, we are just trying to figure out some issues, making sure we can get a sub and Tenacity. They're just having a bit of differences when it comes to the IRL issues in the sense. So I guess I kind of want to inform everyone about what really is at stake here. Both of these teams, this is week 1 of season 4 of League Zero. And I feel like when it starts up in a new season, we obviously have a lot of teams that kind of work differently, have some new type of environments, and they can, I guess, in a sense, have a new season. We've often seen teams take up a branding and try to play better. Obviously, right here at least, we're looking at teams that are the same. I mean, that are completely new in branding. So that means each of them have to try to kind of keep up a status that they're bringing in by their own staff.
I mean, absolutely, and especially with the coaching staff that both these teams have behind them. Like, sure, it may be beneficial in game to have those, you know, maybe more experienced coaches or maybe just a well rounded staff in general, but it also brings just that extra amount of pressure, as you were talking about, because all of a sudden it's not a matter of if or if not. It's like you have to perform, you have to be up to this standard because people are going to hold you to this very high standard because they know the resources you're working with. And sometimes that pressure can be enough to get to just one player. And at the end of the day, it is a team game. So one player crumbling brings the whole team with it.
Man, I couldn't have said that better myself. Imagine going into a comp game and immediately you've just lost a support. You don't have a tank. Oh, it's so frustrating, especially when you know that you can do well. So I'm really hoping that these teams are going to be prepared. Right now, we are getting in the R. We are going to be ready for this one. We're just going to be waiting for the players on for this. But what are your expectations when we come to Nepal? I think we talked about a bit of the compositions, but what do you really expect? And especially, what do you think the first point's going to be?
If I had to guess the first point, I'm going to use my magic caster powers to say Sanctum and its village.
Oh,
I missed.
a punch in the gut. But I talked about it a bit. This is very much Brawl kind of centric, but I don't know if they'll really try to run with the kind of meta.
Well, yeah, I mean, some teams they'll opt into the meta just because it's what their coaching staff likes to force upon them. But you know, it's all about those comfort picks sometimes down in these lower elos that maybe you're not at the highest level, right? Sometimes it's easier to execute these Reinhardt compositions simply because Winston does require more of that mechanical skill and just that general game sense that you may not find down here as freely without a lot of coaching. And it
Um,
seems like both teams are hovering the Rhine as we speak, so.
yeah, but more specifically, it looks like more Wombats specifically want to run Navino on that Orisa. That gives them a bit more shielding, especially with the Symmetra, but I don't know how that is against the Mei.
I think it is technically better against the Mei as they're running out of spawn here, but the issue is you need point control first. You can't really fight into the point as an Orisa. You got to be there first, as the fight's already starting.
Yeah, look at that. The Maywall being able to block them off. Romy doing an amazing job of just blocking everyone off the point. They get so dangerously low, they immediately have to retreat. Now they want to take a quick rotation while Navina's just looking to take some poke into there. It matters to them to how to break off the sim turrets. That's going to be doing the majority of the damage. And the moment that Matson gets high, they're just going to be able to start walking in. We see them already having to use gold. The window comes up from the Baptiste. Already so quick, doing a major amount of damage, and immediately starts giving them control of the point. And a massive shatter! Epic Shock just runs in, hits the Q, and shuts them down. Mortal Wombats has 2 shields, but couldn't block 1 shatter.
I mean, that was just the matter of there was too much damage pumped into the Rhine shield on Rami there. And once the shield goes down, Epic Shock, knowing they had the shatter advantage, were able to just take advantage of that. Pushing forth into this next fight, you're sticking on the Orisa, which means you're a lot slower. You can't eat as much poke damage. So you're going to be looking for this window to get a pick extremely early.
Yep. Look at that. They're using the teleport to get on top of high ground. It forces Tenacity to get inside position, but they make Navino drop first. The wall coming up is going to be able to block out the majority of that window damage, and they're all cuddled together inside the Immortality. It looks like that Fire Strike's going to be able to shut down Reborn, but the counter shatter coming back from Romy is going to be able to start evening things up. The window is going to be able to block out the majority of that Demon Bomb, but it's still going to be able to find both of the tanks on the side of Mortal Wombats, and it looks like they just aren't clean enough to be able to win this fight. They had a good couple opportunities, but they kind of choked in the end.
Yes, indeed, and it just comes down to, once again, the Orisa providing different value from the Diva. But you can look at that with a little bit of optimism from Mortal Wombats because you forced out a lot of ultimates. You forced the Bomb, the Blizzard, the Wall, and you didn't really trade too much. Of course, you dedicated the beat. You probably would like that one back. But now you're going to be pushing this high ground, and you're going to have to push into a beat. Hopefully the Bongo cuts through.
That shatter isn't going to be finding much, and the window gets placed kind of in the middle of them. It's going to be allowing them to kind of just continuously walk forward. That Bongo may be there by Navino, but there's not much they can do, especially with that sound barrier evening things up. Look at Squirrelbit and Oats. They're able to find out the DPS and start cleaning up this fight. Now we're at 88% plus. That's one fight territory, and they have yet to really commit to a fight.
Yes, indeed, and they're going to have to just look for a touch here. I mean, the Reinhardt's going to have to pin in. The Lucio already getting killed. I don't think anyone's going to make it here. That's going to be a really quick 100% going to the side of Tenacity here.
That's just kind of a bit unfortunate. Tenacity. It looked like they were just more comfortable on the Brawl. I can definitely understand why you run that Orisa, why you run that variation. But I feel you run it against a team that just doesn't understand. Hey, press W.
I mean, it's not even really that, right? Because as you were seeing in those fights, if you go back and look at it, the Orisa was kind of just being ignored. It wasn't really a matter of being afraid of the Orisa in any way. You just kind of were like, okay, she's behind us. We don't really have to worry about it. But they're off the Orisa now, onto this kind of dive comp where you're seeing the Moira, seeing the Lucio. And honestly, I'm very interested to see how this is going to work on Sanctum, especially into the rush.
Works fairly well, especially because you get to ignore that Maywall. Already goes up, but Romy misses the jump. Immediately going to be frozen and shut down by Oppa. So now the rest of Tenacity are going to be able to start moving forward and finding any stragglers, while Mortal Wombats are going to be struggling to find any type of room. They don't want to get staggered, but Reborn goes down dangerously low. Look at that, they immediately just have to retreat.
And that was just hesitation from the side of Mortal Wombats. You know, if you're too scared with this dive, you're going to get run over like that. As we saw, Romy got cut off by the wall, and now they're just going back over to the rush variant themselves. Honestly, I'm pretty okay with them mirroring the rush here, simply because they've shown this little bit of hesitation. And in the rush mirror, sometimes that hesitation can be what you need.
I'm really gonna agree. They have those teleports. That Symmetra is gonna be so powerful. Matson has so much to work against. That Maywall isn't really gonna be able to split them off, and they're gonna be using that window, forcing the team to play behind the choke. It looks like Epic Shock just wants to be able to play in, get some damage in, hoping to just build up that shatter. They don't really have any more ultimates besides from Oppa coming up on the sim wall. Look at that, they're able to pop out that Maywall, and they're looking to break off Epic Shock, but It looks like the Symmetra's being able to peel in. They're not finding the opportunity. Now that Symwall's gonna be able to split them. And Navino gets frozen. The window comes out, but it looks like the Shatter is gonna be looking to find some follow-up. The Diva Bomb now being placed while the Sound Bear is able to even things out. Romy being able to find out Hypnosis. Now they're pushing onto the point. The entirety of the fight's kind of split with Opa playing on point. Oat's able to get out Madsen, and looks like we're gonna be seeing Reborn trying to take off Epic Shot on the point. It's gonna be charged off and die. But we see Romy come out with the Shatter, hoping to evening up this fight as he's able to get 2 picks off of it. Same with Apom, able to find out Epic Shock. It looks like the only people left are kind of squishies, but Opa's able to find out Slimal. That's not looking good. The respawns are coming back as we see Hypnosis return to the fight with the Sound Barrier. They're going to be able to stall this out as much as they want. The only people left are Opa. The Reinhardt's coming back, but that so much damage is coming in. Now we see the Reinhardt return back in. The Sound Barrier being used to contest the fight. They're being able to just charge and melt it down. The Diva Bomb is built up by Navino Madsen, able to find out Hypnosis. They are able to get the cap open, while Opa's just kind of LOS out of the fight. And finally, yeah, sure, maybe get to 90%, but Mortal Wombats now have control at this point.
You know, I feel like I was listening to an auctioneer there, the way the fight was going on just so long. But that's the kind of fight you have to deal with in this rush style. There's always going to be ultimates online. You're always going to have to be looking out for that. And I think Mortal Wombat maybe wanted to cap a little bit faster, but they did it fine. But now going into this fight, you're able to window early, and it's going to be your win con.
Look at that, immediately using that window, but Tenacity are pretty smart. They're just gonna ignore it. Immediately throw in that Blizzard. The only person there is the Diva. They place that bomb in the middle of them. They aren't able to get any value, but Navino does lose his life in the end. Madsen is looking to make things even. Romy goes inside the back line, is gonna look to use that Shatter, but ends up paying for their life. That Blizzard is gonna be placed, but everyone was already a bit too far out, so they're not even gonna be damaged. We do see Madsen very much at high charge. He's going to be looking to melt people, but they've lost Reborn. Now they have little sustained. Navino able to come back, managing to find out Oats, and it seems that's just what they needed. Finding Epic Shock and continuously pushing it. Epic Shock was the one with the ult. They have to kill Squirrelbin before he builds up that Blizzard. They managed to find out Opa. Stay inside the Immortality. You don't want to die too quick. Squirrelbin trying to just get a bit more damage in or quickly die. Looks like they're going to be going out. Reborn switching onto the Doomfist. This may help when we come into last fight territory.
Yes, indeed. And I mean, that was phenomenal from Wombats. Sure, you had to use a few ults of your own, but those are the fights you'll take because you got so many ults out on the side of Tenacity. Obviously, you're still having to worry about the Shatter and the Blizzard, but ultimately, you've shown that you can kite around those abilities before, and you can do it again here as we are already at final fight territory.
Look at that, they're able to use that Fire Strike, and it's an even trade! Never mind, Apom's gonna be going down. Reborn has to even it up by fighting out but the Blizzard's there on the point. The Sim walls aren't gonna be enough. The Reinhardt hammer goes through it. Now Reborn's the only person on point. Not only does he have to stall, but he has to try to find value on it, and it looks like he's just gonna be dying. We see Slimal trying to run onto the point. That Diva Bomb by Oats, looking to find him out, but Slimal's just kind of sneaky. Little Frog's gonna be able to run around, but is gonna be picked out because it's frozen. We see them now playing on the point. The Remake is going to be able to find out Apom. That's kind of unfortunate. Now the Shatter's trying to find some value, but Romy's already dead. Madsen is going to be able to come back onto the Tracer, but gets shot in the head by Squirrelbin. Tenacity showing that they live to their namesake, because Lucio's going to be the last person to try to touch, but they don't have a sound barrier or anything to try to stall. They have to touch, but they're just going to be hit by the hammer and booped by the Diva, and eventually that's just going to give Tenacity the first point lead inside this series.
Yes, unfortunately, the mirror windows going into that final fight, it just was too much for the side of Wombats to handle. But considering how the first round went, you know, with such shatters such as this, you've made that second round a whole lot closer, and you've given yourself hope for the rest of the series, because at the end of the day, it is just one map. Sometimes you just drop a map, you know? It's just unlucky, as they say.
Really does happen. Sometimes, debatably, people talk about how when it comes to control, it is one of the weaker maps and the weaker teams will win. Let's not say that, though, because Tenacity looked amazing. Mortal Wombats looked much better comparably than their first point to the second point. I think they looked a lot cleaner, but in comparison, Tenacity, they look sharp.
I mean, absolutely. They were absolutely crisp, knew exactly what they wanted to do. They would come in, execute their plays, and get right back out again, whether it was controlling the point or retaking the point. And that's the type of play you need if you're going to be able to just win these maps decisively. You have to come in with a set game plan, and you can't let what the other team is doing shake you at all. You can't be phased by just losing a single fight, you know, and that's the sort of veteran mindset that something like a contenders coach can give you. So it's very nice for them to have that on the staff. And as you can already see off the first map, it's working wonders.
Definitely agree. I also feel like Mortal Wombats did a bit of trolling, did a bit of throwing. I didn't know what they were doing half the time. It looked like they were splitting up for half of the fights. The support line weren't connected to the tank line, and they just weren't able to synchronize. So coming into this next point, we do have Hollywood. I feel like Hollywood is one of those points you kind of can split up because of just how many kind of angles and openings you can take. But I'm a little worried when it comes to Hollywood because that very much is a bunker type of map to play on.
Well, it's a bunker type of map, if you wish to run it, of course. But we've also can kind of see the long range hit scan stuff like Ash and Widowmaker work really effectively here, and that's something we did not see at all in that first map. So it's going to be interesting to see if either team kind of picks up on these strategies or if they're just running their Ooga Booga Rush the entire time, which Rush is a good comp. You know, you can kind of get. Sure, it gets annoying when you get into second point Hollywood. You have to look at all the high grounds, try to force people down, get your whole team on an elevator. But all in all, I'd say these teams should have strategies going into this map that change it to their favor.
Oh, most definitely. Maybe run a bit of double shield on second point and first. You'll be able to kind of contest the high grounds, forces the teams to play onto you. You have different ways to kind of express yourself, play that brawl, run into the enemy team. It works. Double bubble. While not as popular as before, I mean, it's still fairly indigestion. It's still fairly decent, but I do think that dive is a lot better. Either way, Tenacity, they are ready and they're looking very sharp when it comes to these fights. We're given the RN production is ready. I'm just hoping to see if Mortal Wombats can bring things up and look to play better.
Well, absolutely. You know, that first round, you kind of had to write it away on that silly Arista strategy. But the second round started to look a little bit closer. You got that 99 to 100 fight that you wanted. So you can at least say that was close. But going into this map, you know, you're not put in the situation where you have to win if you're Wombat since you have that first to three, but you don't want to go down 0-2. That just adds such an extra layer of pressure that you're probably already feeling since this is your like first game of the season.
Definitely see. When it comes to the attacking side, they're looking like they want to play out the double shield, but they have room to switch. So, switching over onto Mortal Wombats, it's kind of what we talked about. We're seeing double shield. With the Ash and Echo, that's pretty standard, and I think it's a very good composition.
I mean, absolutely, the Ash. What it does for you here is just the amount of damage it outputs, especially with the damage boost behind it. That's why you see the Mercy run with it. I'll be definitely intrigued if we see Tenacity run out on this comp for their attack. You don't really see the Zenyatta a whole lot, especially into double shield. Gonna have to be avoiding everything that wants to kill him, which is pretty much everything on the side of Mortal Wombat.
Oh, I definitely agree. I do like Squirrelbin on the Hanzo. Gonna be able to do so much shield pressure. Look at that, the Sigma shield from Navino. Already melted down. Now Romy is just gonna be rocked, and they don't have anything to peel. Matson's gonna be picked off first, but however, Reborn is able to even it up, manages to pick off Epic Trade. They do get the rest on Matson. That gives them the advantage, and now Oates goes down. At this point, you kind of wish you did have the Mercy, but I do understand why you choose that Zenyatta.
I mean, yeah, so the Zenyatta is kind of like extra shield break. That way it kind of enables your Kree a little bit more. We're seeing Epic Shot go over to the ball now, just kind of turning this into a full poke comp. You toss away one of the shields, but let's face it, nobody was really going to be able to use it, especially with the damage coming out from Reborn on the Echo. And I think this is all just going to be poking until ults come out for both teams.
What an amazing recognition that Mortal Wombats took. They saw they had a ball in Sigma. They say, we're not going to play high ground. We're just going to play in the backup point. You may be able to boop us down, but we're in a safer spot comparatively than before. And look at that. We do see Tenacity take over the high ground. They have control of this arena. Point Navino is going to be picked off early. The rest does get possible, and Apom does have the window, but it looks like Hypnosis is going to pop it first, be able to pick off two with it, and now they just have control. The rest of Mortal Wombats are just going to say, sorry, you can have control of the point, we didn't mean it.
I mean, yeah, you gave way too much space there on the side of Mortal Wombats. You know, you gave too much respect to the Zen, and once the Zen set up on high ground or anything like that, you lose all kind of contestability of it. So now going into this next fight, oh, Apom decides to fall over with a little resurrect. But going into this next fight, it's just going to be more of this poke style.
On the bright side, at least Navino is able to uneven things, manages to find Oppa, uses the window. My goodness, Epic Shock's doing an amazing job of forcing them off the high ground. Manages to boot them off, however, Hypnosis is going to go down first. But that basically, if someone was on the payload, it would be moving at this moment.
I mean, yeah, and that's another thing. You have to remember that the objective is the most important thing. This is not a team deathmatch lobby. We're not playing Call of Duty out here. But you know, sometimes the payload can't move if you're building those ults. And speaking of those ults, we're gonna see 4 of them online for the side of Mortal Wombats, and these tank ults are no joke, especially the Bongo, as we're hearing the Dragon start actually.
Unlucky. Once again, the Baptiste. Apom is going to be going down first. Navino does manage to trade with Squirrel Ben, but is going down in the end. Otis looking to pick people off. Slimemo's not going to be able to survive. Reborn is badly damaged, and they have control over the high ground. That Bob was just placed a bit too far out of their comfort zone, and it looks like Romney's just going to be the last one staggered in this fight.
Yeah, and that's really unfortunate. You use both Duplicate and Bob in that fight. You're ultimately switching, so I guess it's kind of okay, but you're using 2 ults and still losing fights. It's never anything you want to see. But Bongo and the Gravitic Flux here are both fight winners in and of themselves, so as long as they space these out, play it right, they should be able to get one final hold here.
Yeah, definitely agree what you mean. Look at that Gravitic Flux placed onto the point. That Transcendence is going to peel for Oats. The High Noon from Opa looking to find a target. Oh no, they move a little too far back. They were a bit too scared. They may be starting to win this fight with the 2 picks, but either way, Tenacity captures that and starts evening it out. They have the respawn, so in the end, it doesn't really matter.
I think somebody told Rami to play behind natural cover, and they are taking it a little too seriously. Just extremely passive on this Orisa, and people are wanting to play behind the Orisa shield with them. So moving forward, we're now into point 3 with almost 4 minutes on the time for the side of Tenacity. They're going to have this window they can initiate early. They'll have possibly a Dragon Gravitic Flux combo, and that can definitely get you through the rest of third.
Look at that, already wanting to peek over. Romy goes down, dangerous. Luckily, they rotate. They managed to miss the dragons, but they already have to use Immortality and a Halt to try to help themselves. They're getting in by so much damage just with the Discord and Hanzo. They're kind of uncoordinated, and it's pressuring them too much. Look at that. They aren't even able to touch the point. Reborn is able to use the High Noon to touch that Zenyatta, but nobody's able to touch the point. They immediately have to run out, get rid of cover. Looks like Nvidia's going to be switching over to the D.Va, possibly wanting to go over to the Brawl, but O's using the Gravitic Flux not only to get back to point faster, but look to slam and demech Navino. The Immortality is able to save them while Sly is able to find out Opa, but there's still the advantage on the side of Tenacity. We do see Reborn going over to the Doomfist. They're able to melt them down so quickly, and look how safe the Zenyatta is, so far back, and the point that they can't even extend the resources to dive. Roby is looking to stall this out as much as they can as the Wrecking Ball, but the Bongo is going to be able to secure the damage in. It looks like Tenacity is able to capture all 3 points of Hollywood with 2 minutes and 53 seconds.
I mean, this is not a map you see completed all the time, but even when you see it completed, you see like 20 seconds, 15 seconds, somewhere around there. 2 minutes, 53 seconds on your time bank when you were just kind of running this almost weird poke comp that somehow managed to work just because of the sheer damage you're outputting between the combination of the Discord Orb as well as just the Hanzo having that pick potential. It's absolutely ridiculous that Tenacity was able to roll that hard. Wombat, you've got to put up at least a minute on the clock now to keep this map winnable in your minds, and I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. They're going to have to come up with something pretty creative on their offense here.
If I can say kind of the idea, I feel like everyone on the side of Mortal Wombats, they're having some high latency issues because they were reacting to the fights after the fact, or preparing afterwards, because we saw Epic Shock switch over to the ball. They try to adapt to it first point, doesn't work, and then the ball is just perfectly moving them off the high ground, putting them in unfavorable positions, and they just get picked off. They went into every fight sort of staggered or losing someone very early, and that's unfortunate. So now when it comes to this defense, they're running the same thing, and you decide to run dive. How do you plan to play against it?
I mean, yeah, and it's pretty much there's only one way to play against this, really. It's find where the Zenyatta is, take him down as quick as possible. That's got to be your dive target. But you have to hit the go button on the side of Mortal Wombat because there's nothing. You can't wait with a dive comp. You have to go. You have to be the initiator. And so far, they have not wanted to play fast at all. Hopefully, they change it.
Look at that, immediately being pressured inside the small cubby. That's so unfortunate because now they can't poke without immediately taking a blast of damage. They get a hold, so they're going to be using the Lucio speed boots to rotate around point. That is going to force everyone on the side of Tenacity to give up the smaller high ground. But look at that, they just make a beautiful rotation.
Yes, indeed. And the Hanzo Storm Arrow tell exactly where everybody's at. So even though you flanked all the way around, they know you're there, and they're going to try to pick you for it. And the halt early.
Yeah, look at that. They don't want to use any resources. They're looking to go up high ground, but the monkey's going to bait them. Go on the opposite side, looking to take out Opa, but the Immortality is going to be able to peel and save them a tiny bit. Reborn gets picked off by a Squirrel Bin, while the rest of Tenacity drops onto point. Looking for that 1v1, however, it pumps a bit too far. It's not going to be able to peel out for Rami. It's going to be eventually melted down. Too much poke coming out of this Oats is making sure that nobody walks into his team without taking a considerable amount of damage.
And I really enjoyed those rotations from Wombat. I think those were executed perfectly, and your dive was actually pretty good too. I just don't feel as though the damage was concise enough onto one target, and that's exactly what you need with these dive comps, especially with the high sustain that a Baptiste can provide. You need to be able to focus down one single target. Now Reborn off of the Echo going over to the Doom, and they're just diving high ground right away.
Already taking pressure off of them. But look at that. The Gravitic Flux comes out. Manages to find out Rami Reborn, the high knee, looking to find someone. Sure, Slimo manages to get Oats, but you don't really need a Sigma anymore when there's the two major dive enemies kind of gone. And immediately, look at that. They already have to retreat. Navino's just going to let himself die so he can remech back and spawn.
I mean, I guess the one nice thing you could say about that fight is you traded Coalescence for both Gravitic Flux and the Deadeye. But Opa's already at 30%. I mean, there's a very good likelihood that they will have this back online, so it's almost like no impact was gained. I'll be interested to see what Rami decides to do with his Primal Rage in this next fight, simply because there's not really a target to Primal besides the Zen, and I feel as though the Zen's being protected pretty well.
Look at that, already picking off the Moira. Doom may be able to slam first, but Reborn going back to the spawn a bit early. Same with Navino. Look at that, they placed down the spray, a little bit of teabag on the Navino's corpse, and now it's a less than a minute and 30 seconds. We need to see some kind of ult economy being built up, but more than that, we need to see more speed and cohesion.
I mean, yeah, you have to be faster, but at the same time, it's really hard on this dive comp. I kind of wish we had swapped, but they're already going in on this dive with this bongo out.
Look at that, immediately using that Diva Bomb, looking to pressure them off, but they aren't able to find much. Opa does have the high noon on top of high ground, does get the heal orb, it's going to be able to go back to full, but they look to be hiding in top of the high cubby, but that dragons are going to come out. They know where they are, and that does so much damage, they aren't able to escape it. Mole is going to be picked off by it. Reborn eventually goes down, and the rest of Mortal Wombats, well, they're just not looking that great.
Yes, indeed. The upside being that you killed Opa on this Kree, and Kree is not exactly a fast hero, no Lucio to speed or anything like that. So if you can get into this point extremely quickly, you can take that as your advantage. And again, I just feel as though this Zen is way too well protected. It's the target you want to dive, but you can't dive it. It's sitting behind two shields.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Look at that. Reborn already taking up the high ground. They're immediately finally taking a dive. That sound barrier is going to come in, but the Transcendence was built fights ago. It's going to be able to help them out. That Primal Rage looking to just boop around the Zenyatta or everyone else. The Death Blossom being placed down perfectly. And they find the opening they've been waiting for, being able to finish off the majority of Tenacity. The only one left is Opa, but even Opa's not going to be able to live in the end.
I mean, that's exactly how you love to see Reaper execute that ultimate. Wait for your entire team to force out every single cooldown, everything that can be used to stop your ult, and just go ahead and go to town. And the Blossom there doing wonders, but this is just the start now for Mortal Wombat. They still have to get through second point and third point to have a chance at least drawing this map.
Definitely see what you mean. Navino going to be able to remech, and Already, we see Tenacity has 3 ultimates. They have so much room to play this fight. We're going to be seeing the slam goes down, the Gravitic Flush going on to the people who just tried to die. The Zenyatta immediately slammed down the High Noon. Immediately gets slammed down on by Reborn. Not going to be able to use that in the end as Massive manages to find out the Zenyatta, and they are just cleaning out the rest of Tenacity. They take an early fight in a 5v6, but in the end, that's pretty much what you want. They take the lead, and now they have room to set up however they want.
Yes, indeed. The only fear I would have for Mortal right now is these ultimates. You're going to have the Bongo and the Window. I don't know about you, but I did the math, and that is a lot of damage between those two ults, not even counting the 200 damage per second Dragon Strike that Squirrel was just sitting on as well.
They do manage to take out Slime. Well, that's a bit unfortunate when it comes to the early fight. Matson looking to even it up by managing to find out Opa, but the Dragons managing to split them out. We do see the last person alive is the Doomfist and Robbie. They managed to get picks, but the respawns are so close and they're all dead, it's not going to matter much in the end.
Yeah, unfortunately, getting a pick when the fight starts is great, but when you're getting a pick as the fight ends, it doesn't really matter all too much. And now you're going to be going back towards that final fight territory. Only 40 seconds on the clock for the Wombats. You're going to have Primal Rage, though. You're closing in on Blossom, potentially another Doomfist ult, and maybe that Meteor Strike can be the answer because Tenacity, they blew it all in that fight. All they're going to have is Transcendence.
Wow, wait, interestingly enough, we see them take an extra long rotation. This is good. They don't take a lot of poke, and they get control of the point. It forces the rest of Tenacity to drop down. It looks like Oppo was looking for a flash. He's going to be able to just barely escape, but now Oats and the rest of Tenacity are kind of mispositioned. They aren't playing together, and this may cost them. The Demon Bomb going up by Navino's going to be able to drop down, break out that immortality, and force people around, and that's going to be Tenacity's big issue. Sure, you force Romy to use that Primal Rage, but in the end, they still save a Death Blossom and Slam, so they have more than enough room to play this next point.
Yes, indeed. They were able to just push in there. Probably going to see some just stagger cleanup kills for the side of Tenacity because they got the old spawn, so they just have to die. It's the ritual of being capped on. And, you know, going into this next fight, you didn't have to commit all that much if you're Wombat. You can still finish with time on the bank. In the bank because you're gonna have your Blossom, you're gonna have your Coalescence, and these are two ultimates that can win fights on their own, but going into this next one combined, I mean, you're definitely looking at a good advantage here.
Just look how they set up. They're already pushing that payload as much as they can. The Coalescence come in. They're going to give it up. They need to win this fight. The Transcendence comes. It's going to be able to peel them out. Romy goes down dangerously low. Has to retreat from the fight, but Reborn, once again, it's going to be caught up by the High Noon. That's a bit unfortunate. Now the Bongo is going to be assisting with the damage. They use that Coalescence early, and the payload is stuck. It seems they want to retreat. They just want to take in another fight. That's all they have left.
Yes, indeed. I mean, you force out Transcendence, Deadeye, and Bongo, knowing you have one more fight. Granted, you wanted to finish with time, but you're not really worried about that right now. All your concern is getting that payload to the checkpoint. What comes after is what you can worry about later. And I think your answer might be this Primal Rage from Rami. It's been doing great to create a lot of space, create a lot of disruption for the team, and that's exactly what they need right now.
Yeah, but look at that pull and the Dragons going in. Matson goes immediately inside, wants to try to pressure out Oats as the Death Blossom cannot die early. They do manage to find out Epic Shock because Navino is just putting in so much pressure. The Death Blossom gets placed in. Looks like Fulgo is able to find out Matson, but not until Opa's gone. And they're able to capture the point the moment before it goes into overtime. That's both good and bad because that still gives Tenacity the ability to win this point because Mortal Wombats only have the chance to draw it out now.
You know, when people refer to a Sig 9, they're talking about a Sigma lifting everybody off of the cart and C9ing that way. But in this case, it was kind of the opposite. The Sigma ulted and he himself got off of cart, thus letting him push it in. Granted, on the side of Tenacity, you're not too worried about them capping all 3 points, simply because it's no longer a losable situation for you. At the worst case, you draw, and then we could be going to like a 6-map series, but I think Tenacity definitely wants to wrap it up here and now, and their attack the first time was so blazing fast, I think they have the resources to do it.
Yeah, on the bright side, we do see Mortal Wombats. They're switching things up. They have room to adapt and prepare, but not as much as you think. A lot when it comes to one tick on Overwatch, that can be incredibly dangerous. You can just stack up 6 ults and try to win against that, but more especially the Opa is on the Sombra. You know how powerful Sombra is, especially from the fact that they're running dive?
I mean, absolutely. Sombra just needs to get one hack onto any single person, and then all of a sudden that person becomes a dive target, regardless of their normal survivability. And especially if you can take someone like a Moira out of the fight extremely early, it's just such insane value, and you definitely see the potential it has. But Reborn on the Echo, I mean, I don't mind the Echo as well, simply because it's such a large amount of burst damage. It can cut through almost anything.
And they took a very cheeky close hold. Not exactly what you think, but they managed to find out the Moira. They demech the D.Va. Sure, the hat goes on to Romy during the fight, but that is an amazing first type of fight you want to take. They managed to start getting a good ult economy, but we see some switches coming on the side of Tenacity. It is very early, so it's not going to affect their ult economy.
Yes, indeed. They're going back over to this kind of poke comp. It's going to be all about really the discord being applied to whatever is hacked and then the ball diving it, really. Or at least the Hanzo trying to fire at it. But they're taking the initiative on the defense here.
Already, they get the hack onto Slime, but Roby's able to continuously walk forward. They managed to pick off both of the supports, but they don't even care about cleaning it up because the point was almost back cap. That's why you have Epic Shock play the balls, able to go all the way to the back and find some room. But Opa is going to be building up to that EMP. That may be their win condition they've been hoping for.
Yes, indeed. And the question is, will the EMP come out before Sly can get beat? If you're looking at the percentages, most likely, but all it takes is one quick team fight, and Sly can build that beat and then position themselves. That way, they can help their team sustain through it, because otherwise, this EMP could be game-ending.
Look at that. Opa's able to find out Reborn. That's absolutely huge. Looking to just finish off the targets. Those dragons forces A-Bomb to take a considerable amount of damage. The EMP now finishes them off. We do seem to be staying on to the point. Madsen and Romy being able to clean everyone else up. On the bright side, it looks like this may be a drawable situation. It looks scary because with Reborn gone, they lost the copy, but now they have it for the next fight, especially with the other 3 ultimates that are built up.
Yes, indeed. Sly got hacked in that EMP, so wasn't able to beat, but in return, you didn't need the beat, and now they're initiating with this D.Va Bomb, and you're able to pick the Zen. I mean, that's just...
Let them play the game. They're taking such early staggers and poke. They managed to get both of the support line again, and look at Squirrelman, barely alive, living off of an inhaler and breather, has asthma, can't take a second, but now, look at that, they're going to be able to build up that Death Blossom copy. They still have room to play this game.
Yes, indeed, and it's going to be final fight territory here, and they're duping onto the D.Va, but maybe this bomb from Oats can do something.
Look, they do take those mines on the point. The sound barrier is going to be used so they can start walking over. Oats is going to be able to find out Reborn. Rami goes down very early in this fight, too. Slime's not going to be able to survive too much from Opa. Now the window gets placed. Massey was trying to look for a Death Blossom opportunity, but it was a bit too late. It looks like they gave Tenacity a bit of opportunity to set up, plan, and prepare. And even if they bring that into overtime, it looks like Tenacity are going to be winning Hollywood and bringing us into match point.
Yes, indeed. It got scary for a second there, but there was a... I mean, it was kind of an overextension, an overconfidence moment, if you will, from the side of Mortal Wombat. They realized it was final fight. They were like, oh, we're up in ults. We're just going to go on in. But, you know, you've proven you can fight close now, okay? So even though you're down to match point here, the series isn't over yet. If it was over, we'd already say, you know, good night, have a good time. You're still in this. You can still pull off the reverse sweep. And if you're playing them that close and you're starting to figure them out, I don't see any reason why it's not possible.
I agree. Normally, if we had an analyst, we would take a small break, let teams prepare, breathe, and take a second. Don't think we'll be doing that here, however, because this match is getting hot. It's getting on fire, and I'm so excited to see Mortal Wombats finally showing that they have room to grow. They feel a lot better. They looked a lot cleaner, especially on those last fights. I think they would have been a lot better if they committed to that last push. They could have staggered a couple people a bit more. They were building up those ultimates, but the issue is that they gave Tenacity room to plan and use the abilities that they want.
I mean, yeah, and also it was kind of sort of a little bit too little too late, I guess is the best way to phrase it, because Tenacity on their first offense absolutely blazed through the map and was able to set that record time bank right there. But Mortal Wombat actually starting to figure them out here, and I guess that's sort of the price you pay, you know, now that you're starting to understand your opponent, maybe you can counter them better going into these future maps, especially with this next map being Rialto by the look of it. You're not going to see maybe as much Winston. You're going to have to revert back to the Reinhardt, and we'll see how these teams have been doing because we've seen our fair share of Winston from both of these tanks.
I agree. But now, on to possibly a match point. We're going over to Rialto. Rialto is one of, if not, I guess, people's favorite escort maps. It gives a lot of room to a lot of dive, double shield, and I feel like it has a lot of room to play how Tenacity's been playing.
I mean, absolutely. There's such iconic moments that have occurred on this map, just unrelenting aggression, but as well as sort of bunker-ish comps. Not really the full bunker where you're seeing a bastion or anything like that, but you've seen people hunker down with the double shield and make it work. You've seen the dive up onto the high grounds. You've seen the Rhine just run through the streets without a care in the world, being able to do as he pleases. And I think that's one of the reasons that Rialto is picked a lot and people kind of lean into it, simply because regardless of what style you want to play, you can play it here and you can use that style to counter other styles as long as you're good enough and comfortable enough.
Definitely can see what you mean. Tenacity, though, I'm wondering, how do you secure the win? They've been playing on attack, so they're giving themselves a very good kind of win condition, a kind of room to play the map as much as they want. Because in the end, it's all Tomorrow Wombats to hold the defense, so it's not as scary as they think it is. And I find it interesting that they're just not deciding, hey, let's hold defense. We'll be able to kind of hold. We'll be able to know how we win. I think they're just confident in the fact that they don't need to defend. They just want to make sure that they can push all 3 points.
I mean, yeah, it's just the matter of both of these teams, Mortal Wombat finally starting to turn it on. They're seeming to be more aggressive, right? So you want to be the initiator. You don't want to wait for something to happen. You want to be the factor that starts a fight. And because there's a certain advantage that comes with that style of play, it lets you determine the tempo of the game, determine where you're doing so. So that way, even if you're losing fights, you're losing them on your own terms. You're not being forced or held back by the other team. And I think that's where Tenacity has been far ahead of Mortal Wombat, is just being able to keep this tempo so high. Whereas Mortal Wombat, they've started to turn it on, but they've been kind of skittish. They've been kind of scared of just diving. Even just something as simple as dive, they've just been too worried.
Definitely agree. Mortal Wombat's having a lot of issues. Maybe they just weren't. Maybe they were a bit unprepared. But against Tenacity, who aren't running their main roster right now, because I do believe some people are kind of having some IRL issues, aren't looking that great. Tenacity, I don't want Tenacity to have the kind of a gap that we all think they might. The Mortal Wombats are still looking riled and they are warmed up. The Marsupial Org isn't ready to take an L this close or this early in the season.
I mean, yeah, and even if this series kind of goes the way of a 3-0, you don't have. There's still so much that Mortal Wombats can take away from this, because 3-0 does not tell you what's been happening so far. We saw, besides that one cost point where we were running Orisa, maybe it was just a weird set strat. These rounds and maps have been extremely close, like fighting back and forth, coming down to a single team fight. And, it just, at that point, once you're able to get it down to a single team fight where you're close with these teams, it's just about upping the clutch factor. And that's not something you can really teach or coach. That's just something that has to come from your players, and that comes with experience.
Either way, looking at these teams' compositions, we're seeing they look a lot cleaner on the dive. They look a lot more confident and aggressive on the dive. So I can understand they're choosing for this close hold. But against this Ball Sigma, I don't know how well it's going to fare out, aside from diving the support line.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just all about that poke again, right? They're just going to be poking, seeing what they can get. And interestingly enough, on the side of Mortal Wombats, they're trying to hold close like they're playing like a hog or like even some sort of rush, but they're doing it on dive for this close hold.
Yeah, they are able to play underneath the point. Romy is going to get Discord to take a considerable amount of damage. Look, that Squirrelbin's going to be the first one going back to the spawn room, but it is right there, so it's not that big an issue. We see them stacking together. They're doing an amazing job of blocking in any considerable amount of damage. They're still respecting Tenacity, however. They don't want to go in too close. That pulse bomb coming out, it is going to find out Reborn. This is where the full hold kind of just gets a little kind of stuck in. They can't give up just yet. They have to keep fighting till they're all dead. Madsen and the D-Mech onto no, not yet, but there it goes. The D-Mech onto Navino, going to be evening up this fight. Now Tenacity have room to breathe and start pushing people back. However, they still build up that sound barrier coalescence, and they will be coming up on a Primal Rage, so not the worst type of fight comparably, because Tenacity does build up 3 ultimates, almost 4 in their own right.
I mean, absolutely. And this is sort of a change that's starting to occur to all escort maps where people are doing those spawn holds simply because it's the only way to get 3 fights on first point, and you really do want those 3 fights simply because, as you said, you're able to build up your ultimates a lot quicker. Both support ults already online, but you're gonna have to save beat to live through this gravitic flux because I have an odd feeling there might be a minefield or a dragon below it.
It's very good. Look at that gravitic flux slammed up into the air. Romy able to find out hypnosis. Those mines are slammed down onto the point. Reborn once again going to be going down first for the side of Mortal Wombat. That's not looking great. The mines are around the payload and Romy kind of jumps into them. It's going to be taking damage, but it's perfectly fine. It's all test subjects. As we see Epic Shock just retreating out from the fight. Navino is going to be coming back with a Diva Bomb too. So honestly, Mortal Wombats don't have too much to worry about.
I mean, yeah, you're able to retake control of the point. Not really too sweating about anything. You use your support ult exactly as you're supposed to, but an extremely early rally from Hypnotoss.
Look at that, they're able to play out that Diva Bomb, looking to just push them back. They isolate out that Sigma, but it looks like Slimo wasn't able to wall ride fast enough to save himself. Gonna be caught out by the Pulse Bomb. Romy uses that Primal Rage, gonna be able to find out Squirrel Band a considerable amount of damage. While they're just looking to push down this point, they have to have the squishies just try to do as much as they can. Squirrel Band going over to the creek, gonna be looking to stun people. Romy is gonna be picked off by Oath, and the mines rebuilt. It's gonna be stopping anyone from leaving or entering the point as we see them try to heal as much as they can for the copy, but the copy's gonna be broken down. Matson does manage to find out Epic Shock, but the rest of them are just gonna be picked off. Romy does look like he wants to try to jump onto the point, but there are mines kind of blocking it off. There isn't much they can do. The only person left to touch is the Moira, but it looks like they still want to try to do this as much as they can. Romy taking on the high ground. Matson's coming back with the Death Blossom, has the opportunity to win this fight. The Coalescence looking in for extra peel. The Transcendence and Pulse Bomb being popped out. They're able to find out Navino and secure this team fight. Looks like Opa is able to find it out. The Death Blossom going inside the backline, being able to find out too. Slimo able to even it up by finding out Hypnosis. The Sigma's just looking to do his best, but he's all alone. Oates is not looking too clean, looking to eat up as much as damage as possible, but the hack goes on to Epic Shock. That's going to be stopping the ball from doing as much as they want. Look, they're going to be able to find out Oates, and everyone else is looking to take a flank. Tenacity now are the ones that are looking like they're about to be full held.
Yes, indeed. Only 15 seconds left on the clock. No real opportunity to C9 as Mortal Wombats just going to play on the cart. And this is such a difference in tempo, right? We're seeing the tempo kind of shift because of this poke comp. It's not able to do a whole lot. Epic Shock probably going to have to be the hero here with this minefield as well as just the main person touching as we are finally entering overtime.
Look at that, already taking it early. They managed to shut down with a good coordination. That Moira, the rally's gonna give them some extra sustain and armor. Those mines are placed in such a spot that they can't retreat. They have to take this fight. Look at that slam going out, gonna be able to find out Romy was only able to find out really one person, but it looks like that capture is going in. Tenacity, they aren't ready to give it up so easy.
I mean, absolutely not. You gotta be pushing Brinken. Like, don't get me wrong, you still have a little bit of wiggle room on the side of Tenacity, but you would rather end it as a 3-0. Just get on to the next thing you have to do in your day. But Mortal Wombats, they want to keep fighting this, and they're going to have the ultimates to do it. The EMP coming up close, they already have Bomb and Beat to live through this gravitic flux coming in.
Being able to hit the majority of them. That sound barrier has to go in to help them out, but Oates is going to take that high ground either way. Mortal Wombats are saying, I don't really care. They're able to get 3 picks. The boot. Roby should have gotten the environmental kill, but I mean, it happens sometimes. Reborn able to pick off that Sombra in the end too. So now the issue is that they have to play kind of in a very close area where the dive, or shadow dive, whatever you want to call it, has more room to play.
Absolutely, and also it's just they've been able to win these fights off of just the Diva Bomb, as you're seeing now, or just the Primal Rage, and we're already seeing a fight over.
Yeah, unfortunately, unlike in Hollywood, they don't have the room to protect their Zenyatta. They just immediately dive in, especially with Matson. They're able to start getting 30 picks. They eventually finish off Opa, and everyone else just has to kind of come back, regroup, think of a plan. They do have the Transcendence combined with 3 more ultimates, so that's more than enough room to plan.
I mean, absolutely, but Mortal Wombat, they're just rotating their ults so effectively, right? They've just 2 ults every single fight. They're effectively winning the fights, not having to worry too much. And now the EMP is probably going to come out just to deal with Minefield.
Oh no, they shut down the Zenyatta before, but Squirrelman manages to get the 3K and put them all back into the Shadow Realm, saying, hey, your game isn't that good. Mortal Kombat's is going back to the box office, and it looks like they now have room. The Transcendence is now the only ultimate they'll be having, so they need to build up this Gravitic Flux.
Yes, indeed, and it's just a matter of we're already seeing the re-engage here for the side of Mortal Wombat. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, they put so much pressure in onto Oats. The Death Blossom does get canceled out, but the Transcendence was used just to peel for it, just in case. We do see them popping in. Roby's gonna get picked off before he can get any sleek of healing. Slimo is gonna be also melted down, same with Matson. They don't have any form of win condition, so now they just have to attempt to stall. The payload does go into overtime. However, it looks like Tenacity is gonna be able to capture second point. Look to be scary, but they seem to bring it in the moment they are about to lose, and now they have the entirety of third point to try to capture.
I mean, it's very interesting what they're doing on this style of poke, right? Because at least the Baptiste, you have a lot of healing, you could argue that point, but you don't have a lot of healing with the Bridge, but you have enough to keep Oaths up as he kills Reborn.
Look at that. But Opa managed to go down, I do believe, to the pulse bomb of his own doing. So now they're going to use that coalescence to push into the rest of Tenacity. They don't really have the ball to push people around. They find out the Zenyatta, that's really the only person they kind of wanted. So they just can move back. However, Tenacity still have room to play. They built up 3 ultimates compared to the 4. It's still somewhat of an even trade. Reborn, though, is the person you're looking out for. That EMP needs to be massive.
Yes, indeed, you're looking for the EMP or at least a dive target of some kind onto the payload, and we're just seeing another Gravitic Flux being built so quickly.
Reborn is caught out by the slam, unfortunately enough. Davita's going to be the first one picked out. Not looking too great. Now that mine's placed on point, the EMP is going to nullify them and manage to find out Oats, Epic Shock, and OPA. Looks like Slimo is able to find a Hypnosis. They now have no support line. It's all about cleaning it up. Squirrelman looks like he DC, just stood still on the point. Wasn't really caring as Matson's able to pick him off, but gets booped into the point himself. We do see Opa looking to finish up this fight. Oats is dangerously low. It's only 10 seconds. They need someone to touch. Epic Shock is going to be the person to do that.
I mean, yes, indeed. It's going to be the final touch here for the Wrecking Ball, but the question is, what are they going to do with the touch? They have no ults online. It's just going to be kind of a stall-ish attempt with the Transcendence here.
Yeah, they pop it out. The Coalescence is kind of equalizing on it, but they're just moving into the back line. Looks like Matson's using that Death Blossom. It does get canceled in the end, but Navina was able to clean up the rest of the enemy targets. Now that Pulse Bomb's back, but Epic Shock is as well. The hack managing to just clean them up. There is nothing they can do. And Opa, well, you'll just have to do better on your attack because it looks like Tenacity is going to be held on third point.
And just, it's so weird, right? Because Tenacity, they were able to build these ultimates up extremely quickly every fight with their poke comp, but the problem that comes with that is you were having to fight a support ult every fight. You know, Apom and Sly, whether it was Cole, whether it was Beat, just was always there to answer these ults you were building. So maybe you have to rethink and go back to the drawing board, but at the same time, you know, your silver lining is you got all the way to third point Rialto. There is still a win condition on the board for both of these teams, and as weird as it is, both are extremely likely.
Yeah, Tenacity, they didn't have room to kind of breathe. It's what we saw in Hollywood at the end. Mortal Wombats are making sure they take these early fights, and that's what they need to do. It's working so well. We saw how many times they shut down the support line and the DPS would just end up giving up, or the tank line, just so that they can kind of regroup and have a contest. Besides from Opa really just trying to make a difference. Now we see them running dive, just shadow dive in a sense, back on it on attack. However, we do see this double shield. This is somewhat even. This could go either way, in my opinion.
I mean, absolutely, and I think it's going to come back to kind of what we saw in Hollywood, right? Are they going to be able to dive the Zenyatta, or will there be enough secure positioning for the Zenyatta to just live forever? And I think if you can get through first point, the Zenyatta is diveable, 100%. But just the high ground on this first point, especially with double shield, is so difficult. But you'd have the slight advantage here of there's nothing on this double shield comp that wants to contest hard.
Yeah, that is by far the biggest issue. Look at that. They're having to play behind the point. Navinos doesn't really want to take too much damage, so he's waiting for his team to kind of get set up. Look at them take that rotation all the way on the left side. They are getting prepared.
Yes, indeed, and they're just waiting for their cooldowns to come up so they can dive effectively. You're seeing the rotation counter rotation rather now out for Tenacity as they kind of expect and see what's happening. And all of this space is being given up for free. I mean, if you're Wombats, you've already taken 2 corners and you haven't had a fight.
Yeah, look, they immediately win those dangerous close quarter streets phase, and now Navina's just getting free payload push, but Oats doesn't look too happy. Look at them taking that dive in. They managed to find out Squirrelbin. The Immortality is able to kind of peel out for the Zenyatta, but eventually it's going to be melted. Same with Oppa. It's kind of unfortunate. They just weren't ready, and they should have set up more on the low ground, because in the end, it looks like the only thing dying is Navino's mech, as Mortal Wombats wins that fight.
Yes, indeed. And going into this next fight, they're going to probably be able to cap point A here without little to no resistance, unless we're seeing a ball contest here at the very end. But picks are already coming through.
I'm sorry, Squirrelbin was across the map. It's just seeing people and start shooting at them. If they were just a bit more prepared, they would have been fine and won that point. Maybe been able to capture or take an early fight. But it looks like in the end, Tenacity, they live up to their namesake, able to find those 3 picks and shut down the fight before anything can happen.
Absolutely. So now that you got this hold, what are you going to do with it? You're kind of on a weird comp where you have Diva Ball with the Zen Brig. Once again, I just don't think it's enough of a healing output. But Squirrel Ben could be your savior. This Dragon Strike could come up huge. You just kind of have to find a way to make it work, especially when there's no ult on the side of Mortal Wombats.
I like how Epic Shock is just kind of waiting on top of this high. He knows where they are. He's now following them, going to be able to boop inside, trying to build those mines. Squirrelben pops out the dragons, is looking to find a target, but Romy and Navino looks like they're looking for the rest of the enemy targets. Oats is able to find out Rami, but in the end, Oats is going to be demeched. Not going to be able to be killed, though, so has a moment to remech. Apom does get slammed, but it's perfectly fine. Epic Shock isn't going to be able to do much. The Coalescence being thrown in as security, and it looks like they still are building up their ult charge economy, because in the end, looks like Mortal Wombats are going to be building up to 4 ultimates, and sure, Squirrelbin still been looking somewhat consistent. Look at that, 2 headshots in the end. It's going to be stopping any type of staggers for his team and force them to kind of play a bit more slower.
Absolutely. And now is where you have to kind of consider a comp switch, right? If you're the side of Tenacity, you were on this comp just to kind of stagger yourselves out, but now you're on it because you're getting close to ultimates. Maybe you think these ults are going to be worth it for you in the end, but I don't really see the value that something like a Minefield can get into this dive comp.
Look at that. We're seeing the slam come in. They're taking that early fight. It's on top of the high ground. Reborn does use the copy, but eventually it's going to wear out. Not enough time. Reborn gets picked off early. Now we're seeing them rotate all around. Squirrelbin's looking for those angles. Same with Oppa, but it looks like they want to take their time and wait. The Dragon's being placed down. It's looking to find someone out, but that Diva Bomb's being thrown so far behind them. They're basically fine. Counter bomb goes out. Navino able to get that the remake kill onto Hypnosis while Squirrelbin finds out Madsen. The Sound Barrier is going to save them from the extra damage from the mines, but Romy's already so dangerously low. Without that Moira going, they're basically having to reset. Looks like Tenacity have room to grow and room to spare. They have the High Noon and Rally for the next fight. This is where that kind of that dive composition needs to play more faster and more accurate.
I mean, I'm honestly, as a spectator, I'm confused from the outside because you lost your Brig extremely early in that fight to a remech on the side of Tenacity, and they just lived with the fact that they only had a Zen for healing. They didn't get poked down. There was no focus fire coming out from Mortal Wombats, which allowed them to live through a situation like that. And now the early rally can come out to help you win this fight, and there's only 2 minutes on the clock, which seems like a lot, but it can burn quick.
That they're using that rally just to build up the armor before the fight. That gives your Zenyatta so much sustain. And look at that, they're all just waiting like a bunch of monkeys. I mean, Rami is the monkey, but either way, they're still patiently taking their time. They want that rally armor to wear off, but they're wasting a lot of time bank in for that. So I don't really know what exactly their plan is, because now they push out, now they start diving in, but they immediately back out. They pop out the Dragon Scroll, but able to get a 2k off of it, and the D-Mech onto Navino. You might as well count that as a 3rd kill.
Absolutely, and you kind of trade the rally for 30 seconds, and now the Baby Diva sending herself into the drink because she doesn't want to get staggered out. All of a sudden, like I said, we were at 2 minutes, and now we're almost down to 1 before this next fight's going to start. And what's going to be your win condition? Is it going to be Madsen going back in with the Blossom? You're going to have to find value. You're going to have to hope the stun's not up for either the Brig or the Kree. I mean, this is starting to look into dire straits.
Look at this. They're now coming in. That Iron Noon being placed in. They're looking to find a target. However, it looks like it's just going to be LOSing them, slowing them down. They are still playing on this high ground. They're not really worried too much. Epic Shock gets a lot of armor. Is going to be able to live. Looks like the sun goes on to Rami. Madsen's looking for the flank. They use the Coalescence just as security so they can start pushing in. It helps them and gives them both damage and healing. They manage to find an Opa and Hypnotoss before the Transcendence comes out, but that Diva Bomb looking to even things out, but goes a bit too high. Gives Mortal Wombat more than enough room to capture this point and hopefully capture the payload, which is in a very close spot. Never mind, it looks like they still want to try to hold it, using that Dragons to play to split them up. Squirrelbin manages to find out too, and my goodness, just take him out if he's being able to do this much damage to you guys. Respawn's more in favor on the side of Tenacity. Squirrelbin able to finish off the rest of them. Romy does manage to find out Squirrelbin, but Opa cleans it up, manages to find out Reborn. They don't have another fight. I'm sorry, but you just can't let Squirrelbin live for this long and find this much value. Novino trying to come out to play on the point, but it looks like he's just going to be picked off and demeched. But it looks like that overtime's coming in, not lost till they say it is, as we see Bet carry Tenacity into the 3-0. It's what we expected, or it wasn't. Either way, it looks like Tenacity are going to be our winners.
That's ridiculous. Like, first two maps of the series, you could argue was, you know, kind of team play, team difference. Rialto, like, Squirrelbin absolutely put the team on his back so many times. The game was supposed to be over. Like, their attack almost got stalled out on point A without the clutch. Their defense almost ends there without the clutch. Just clutch after clutch coming out from this Hanzo Kree, and it's just inhuman, the stuff he was doing. And the fact that, as you pointed out, there was no shutdown. Nobody was stopping the free fire coming out from this Hanzo. It's absolutely ridiculous. And that's going to give Tenacity the 3-0 here. But like I said before, 3-0 doesn't really tell you how close these two teams really felt.
I definitely agree. But now, going to the opportunity of giving in a interview. So honestly, if I would say we give it to Reborn. Not Reborn. Sorry, wrong type of person. Don't want to get your hopes up. I would say Squirrelbin.
I mean, absolutely. Squirrelbin just dominating so hard in that last map, as well as just being consistent throughout the whole series. You know, hopefully we can get them on in.
I definitely agree. It's gonna be taking a second. We're just waiting for that R. But my goodness, even if they didn't have their starting roster, Tenacity just looked consistent. I'm guessing it's that tier 2 coaching. It must be something. Either way, Mortal Wombats, they looked so good in the end. They looked a lot cleaner. I'm definitely seeing them in the future looking a lot better. Maybe they just need to work on a couple things here and there. Either way, we're going to bring in Squirrelbin for this interview. Just give me a second as I abuse staff perms to drag people in.
Absolutely, just abusing the staff perms and just, yeah, Mortal Wombat, you don't have anything to be ashamed of. You just take this as a learning opportunity moving forward. And I do believe that is the man of the hour.
Yeah, Squirrelbin, while we wait to get the graphics set up and prepared, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. Do you want me to turn my camera on?
That's up to you. We would definitely encourage it, but if you're not comfortable with it, that's perfectly fine.
Now we're good. I turned the camera on a lot. I'm just very hot. All right.
Yeah, but my goodness, but welcome. You helped bring Tenacity in. You stopped that push. So I'm going to ask the question quick out. What was your mindset there? You guys lose the fight, but then immediately decide to come in low on people and start bringing it back, managing to get that 3-0. What's going on?
I wasn't originally going to touch. I'm sure you're talking about that last, like, very, very last push. I wasn't originally going to touch, but then Epic Shock is like, guys, if you want to contest, I'm going to go in. And I'm like, I got drag. So we touched with just the Epic Shock ball and my drag. And then I didn't Pepega. So it worked out.
Man, you got 4 final blows when it came to the last fight. So I'm going to take a little break. Megalast, do you have any questions to ask?
I mean, absolutely. Just how does it feel to be able to get that first dub under your belt and just kind of set forth a tone of, because a lot of people going into this match were like, okay, these could be the 2 best teams. Whoever comes out of it is going to be the number 1. How does it feel to just kind of be able to assert that and be like, yep, we are currently the number 1 right now?
It feels good. It feels really good. I'm really happy I was able to play some Meh. I hate playing Mei, to be honest. But just to show that I have flexibility against that Hanzo, which I didn't do myself any favors by playing some Hanzo, but I showed that I was capable of playing Mei, which I'm happy with. Also, I just want to say, Tenacity, we we had Opa in. So our
Mhm.
original other hit scan, Rav, couldn't make this game. Our secondary hit scan could make it until Thursday. And then he said he couldn't make the game. And then our starting main support couldn't make it as well. And our starting main tank got screwed over by his parents.
Yeah,
It was
unlucky
truly an
Squirrel
Asian parent
Ben.
diff, but we we did well. I'm really proud of them.
My goodness, yeah. And honestly, you guys looked good. I can't say that enough. You guys looked clean. So obviously, Mono Wombats, when it came to control, they were trying to figure things out. But as they got better, how did you guys start to adapt against them?
We just realized that we just gotta like we needed to play so far back. We realized kind of like halfway through Hollywood that we were kind of taking the brawl too much against their six man. Their six man isn't bad. I have to say that their six man was definitely serviceable. Um, and I kind of paid up my positioning a lot against them, and they definitely caught me out for it. But we definitely realized that we had a VOD review on how to play against this. Pretty much, we knew how to play against it. We just needed to put it into practice and actually use the stuff that we've been taught and stuff we've been practicing. Because you guys know that matches can be so anxiety-inducing stuff. Like my aim was shaking. If anyone spectated me, my yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I guess the question I have to ask before Mega Last continues this on is what do you have to say to the community who was kind of really excited for Tenacity, and now you guys are debatably top one or top three teams?
Um, I'm hoping to keep up the hype that we have surrounding us. I definitely think we have the potential to be the best team in the league. I definitely don't think that we should be kind of putting down other teams just because we had this big victory. I think the other teams, I have heard that the other teams were surprising, like Pepega was losing to MI6 last time I heard, and DC lost a map. I think that a lot of the other teams are definitely big competitors that people are kind of not looking at. So I definitely don't think we should go crazy on Tenacity or any of the other teams. I think it's going to be a pretty close league, to be honest.
I mean, yeah, that's actually just super phenomenal from you guys. And just one final question from me, at least. Just we've obviously asked you how it feels, and just to be put in that situation where you have ringers. But in terms of how does it feel to have like the coaching staff and the org behind you that you do? Obviously everyone's super excited to hear about the coaching staff, especially because you have that tier 2 coach behind. Like, just what kind of wisdom have you already learned?
It's been I'm really glad to have Suki and QZ coaching. We've had some VOD reviews from Wadi and Capitology. So we've had some amazing coaching, and I usually don't really pay attention to VOD reviews, I'm gonna be honest, unless they're one-on-one. But I've definitely been paying a lot of attention to them, and they're so smart and they're so fun to talk to. And another person that people don't know that we have on our coaching staff, but has been really, really helpful, especially for our Foolision and the other support players, is Speedy Mens. A lot of people might recognize him. He's kind of like an unofficial coach for us, but he's been doing a lot of work. And I don't want to go make him go unrecognized. He's a really cool guy.
Makes sense. But before one last thing, I really want to ask you a personal thing before I let you plug anything you want. You're very famous for this, and I see you turned on that camera. So, is there anything you want to be giving to the viewers who are tuning in?
What do you think? Piano? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I was asking, do you want to play the piano before we kind of send you off
Yeah,
to
hold up.
relax?
Um, okay, I'm it's over 100 degrees in my room right now because I don't have AC. And it's 100 degrees out in Seattle. So this is gonna be a little scuffed. I gotta set this up. But give me a second. You're gonna have to open up my stream on the stream
We
in
have
order to hear
to
audio.
opening up a stream on the stream. My goodness, we are. Yeah, this is.
Ah, hit the L, man. Hold up, I gotta fix this.
Well, because the share screen's gone, we are going to be letting Squirrel Ben. He's
It's
very
gonna be in a
popular.
second.
Yeah, he is very at least known for playing the piano, so I don't see an issue with letting him just play a bit of mix, especially for this victory. This may be one of the only times you'll see the king himself rip the piano out.
Hey, we're gonna do kind of a calming song because I don't have the energy to play something like super. Yeah. So, are you ready? You ready? I.
Yeah,
Ready?
pop it off whenever you want. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Let that not only be a statement to the rest of the intermediate teams that not only will Tenacity win, but they'll win with style. Squirrelben, do you have anything left to kind of get say before we send you off?
Yeah. Follow my Twitter at notsquirrelben, and I know Gamester's watching the stream, so I want to tell him that he sucks. Also, that I had a good lunch today. It was really tasty.
All right,
All right.
you're free to go.
Yeah. Bye.
My goodness, Megalast, that was a very intense game to say the least. Am I right?
I mean, absolutely. It's so nice when you get to see these teams just start brawling it out, and it makes you remember that we are back here at League Zero and we're ready to kick this season off. And what better way to start off than the 3-0 bang, you know?
Definitely agree. Some of the other teams may be playing. I'd recommend checking out those streams if you want to. Either way, you can check out Megalast on their Twitter. Make sure to follow, especially everyone else in League Zero. They work hard to get to produce this season 4. You can join the Discord, watch the Twitter to be able to stay up to date. If you love what you saw, hit that little heart. On to the Moo guy. He will be streaming a couple more games if you are interested in that. Either way, my name is username_Intel. I thank you so much for watching this broadcast, and we'll see you next time.